overseas because there are multiple developments out of the Middle East as the war with Iran now enters its second week. The Iranian regime has selected the son of the deceased supreme leader to succeed him. President Trump warned Iran on Saturday not to elevate anyone to that position until his administration had approved, or that his administration hadn't approved. U.S. and Israeli officials have vowed that any successor will remain a target. Meanwhile, Axios reports that strikes carried out by Israel Saturday on Iranian fuel depots were far broader than the U.S. expected. Two sources telling Axios the U.S. is concerned the attacks could backfire strategically by rallying ordinary Iranians around the regime and also driving up oil prices. All of this comes as the U.S. and Israel continue to carry out airstrikes. On Saturday, Iran's president apologized to its neighbors for attacking them and said that Iranian forces would no longer strike nearby countries unless an attack originated from there. However, explosions in these countries have been reported since. We're also learning more about the deaths of two more American service members. One was seriously injured on March 1st when Iran struck a Saudi military base housing U.S. personnel. The soldier died from their injuries on Saturday as military health officials were preparing a transfer to a military hospital in Germany. The Department of Defense has also announced the death of Major Sorfli Davies, a member of the National Guard and an NYPD officer who died from a non-combat related incident on Friday in Kuwait. On Saturday, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance attended the dignified transfer in Dover, Delaware, of the first 6 Americans killed in the war with Iran. The death toll of American personnel killed now stands at 8. I want to go right to the region. MS Now international reporter Inez de la Cuetara is live with us from Haifa in northern Israel. Inez, talk to us about what you're covering there on the ground, what you've been seeing over the course of the past few days.
Hey, Ali, yes, so we are coming to you from an underground hospital in Haifa. They've moved a lot of their operations underground here. You can see they've set up a bunch of different kind of makeshift rooms. We understand it was the Navy that helped them move their operations here. And this is obviously to keep inpatients safe. They tell us some people are spending the night here, but also to prepare potentially for mass casualty events as this war rages on. Here in Haifa, they've been under constant attacks from the north, from the Iranian proxy, of course, Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and of course from Iran as well. So we've been here for about an hour and we've already gotten 2 sirens, which gives you a sense of just how frequent those sirens are going off. The fighting very much raging on with Hezbollah. We understand at least 2 IDF soldiers were killed there in recent days. Here at this hospital, they've treated at least 4 IDF soldiers who were wounded in the fighting up north, and 1 soldier remains here with critical injuries. Now, beyond that, we're of course watching the news out of Iran that a successor to the Ayatollah has been named. The second son of the Ayatollah, Mojtaba Khamenei. He is a 56-year-old cleric, someone who is very much considered to be a hardliner, very much in line with his father's policies. He was widely believed to be the top contender here even before his father was killed, and certainly in the aftermath as well. We understand his wife was killed in the strikes that killed his father, and his election is really an indication that the Iranian regime is doubling down on its anti-Western, anti-U.S., anti-Israel views, that it has no plans to change. The President Trump, has of course called Mojtaba Khamenei an unacceptable choice. Prior to his being named the successor, Trump told ABC News that the successor wouldn't last long if Trump didn't sign off on his appointment. So we'll see going forward what happens. The Israelis have of course said that they would continue taking out any successor to the supreme leader.
MS Now international reporter Inez de la Cuetara, live from Haifa, Israel. Thank you for your reporting and stay safe. Joining us now, Pentagon reporter for Politico, Paul McCleary, is here on set with me. So we see there a little bit of the mood on the ground. Inez has been coming from various underground hospitals in Israel over the course of the last few days. And I think we're just getting more of a sense, given the way that the Iranian regime is trying to recollect itself in the aftermath of its supreme leader being killed, a sense of why regime change is so difficult. And there have been intelligence assessments in recent days that show that ousting and pushing out the clerical majority there in Iran was always going to be difficult, regardless of how big the U.S. and Israeli incursion was. And this is yet another reminder of the lack of control, frankly, that the U.S. has in the region, at least right now. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think some sort of regime change strictly through an air campaign has generally not worked in the past, right? I mean, it's taken ground troops on the ground to like physically overthrow the government, capture the leaders,
find partners on the ground, which I think President Trump has already said that they thought maybe they had some people they could work with, but they killed them accidentally in the airstrike on Khomeini. So there isn't really, unlike Venezuela, there's no people that the U.S. and Israel can really fall back on and saying, you're an acceptable leader to us.
Yeah.
And just doing this from the air, we're in week 2 now, there's only so much that's going to accomplish. I mean, you'll never really run out of targets, but you start lowering the bar for what you want to hit. And then, like we saw with the strikes on the oil facility, right? I mean, that's a critical infrastructure, but still that created some blowback, I think, in the region and in Washington.
Yeah, I think you bring up so many different pieces of this, right? The idea that here in Washington, the line that Republican lawmakers have set with me is, well, you don't need to come through us to authorize strikes like this. An air campaign is different than ground troops. That's what Republican senators have said, well, they would need to come through us on that. And yet you've got the president over the weekend leaving open the possibility of putting U.S. troops on the ground, saying at various points, well, this is war. More people are likely to die. I mean, he had to attend a dignified transfer for half a dozen U.S. service members just this weekend. When you see that they're leaving that space open, I recognize, and this is a president that for 10 years has said, well, we're not going to cut ourselves off at the pass and say what we're going to do and not going to do. But this is a very serious door to leave open.
It is, and we've seen conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan, other things the U.S. has been involved in. Once the shooting starts, you lose some control over what happens next.
Yes.
Right? And events pile upon events, and the next thing you know could be ground troops, special operations. I mean, there is nuclear material out there now that is potentially unsecured. Right? I mean, there's some real dangers, and I think the argument is we need special forces to go in and secure these materials.
We also saw a little bit of Pentagon Secretary Pete Hegseth on 60 Minutes over the weekend. The last time you were here, we were talking about U.S. munitions stockpiles and the way that there was some concern about just how much we have to throw at this new conflict with Iran. Hegseth made the point that he feels that we have enough, that we're good on that front. But what else did you make of the fact that he was going out there doing a show like 60 Minutes at a moment like this, talking about munitions stockpiles? You've been doing some reporting on other drones that they might need for this conflict that are currently wrapped up in another deal with Ukraine. I mean, talk us through that piece of this.
Yeah, I mean, there is concern about the weapons stockpiles here. I mean, the U.S. has the deepest stockpile in the world, obviously, but we fired off over 120 Tomahawk missiles. Those take a long time to build. They're very expensive. A lot of precision-guided munitions. I think the big concern is the air defense here, right? As you've seen, Iran can essentially swarm drones and ballistic missiles. Some are going to get through. It's going to happen every time. But there's only these are very exquisite technology. It takes over a year to build a Patriot missile, several $1 million. That's hard to do. And if you're shooting Patriot missiles at small drones, the cost curve doesn't really work for the United States and Israel there, right? So what we're doing is looking to the Ukrainians, actually, because they've produced a lot of small drones that are missile interceptors and drone interceptors that cost $5,000 to $6,000 a pop. You can build hundreds of thousands of those a month, and that would go a long way to protecting Israel, protecting U.S. assets in the region at a cost point that the U.S. and I think the West could live with.
Yeah, I think that's one of the other pieces to this, right? We were talking about the various layers to this Iranian conflict. The other thing that I want to just kind of pull a thread of is when you talk about the lower threshold for targets, when you talk about the U.S. use of Tomahawk missiles, there has been a lot of reporting over the weekend, and we talked about this on Friday's show, about a school in Iran that was hit. Many intelligence reports and assessments say that it was the U.S. that hit it. You heard President Trump over the weekend say, no, it wasn't us. It was definitely Iran. But when Hegseth was asked by a reporter, is that your understanding? He said, well, we're still investigating. What does that tell you about what we're learning about what the U.S. might have done, very likely would have done here in Iran, hitting this school? Yeah,
the school is right next to an IRGC base, right?
Yeah.
A naval base. And as we've seen in other conflicts, there's precision weapons. Nothing is 100%. I think the New York Times had a visual analysis over the weekend that really showed that it looked like a Tomahawk missile that would have come from a U.S. submarine or warship offshore that was fired. Initial reports that it might have been an Iranian air defense missile that went astray, possibly. But, I mean, we've seen it in Gaza, we've seen it in Iraq and Afghanistan, Yemen, anywhere else. Nothing is perfect, right? Even with precision munitions, you're going to hit buildings you didn't mean to hit. No intelligence is perfect. And the fact that I think Hegseth didn't fully back up the president, I think shows some hesitancy to really make hard conclusions. And And the Pentagon's seen the video. They know what they fired. They know what they hit.
They know what they fired, they know what they hit, and they know what missiles they were using, which is able to be seen in video assessments that have been done both by the Times and others. I think that's just another layer to this that we are going to continue to follow as this conflict is expected to continue stretching. The president has said it could last weeks. Here we are at week 2. Pentagon reporter for Politico, Paul McCleary, thank you for coming on as always.